Travis, I know you texted me. I know you got some hot, fresh topics that you'd like us to riff on. So what's part A? What's the part A to our part B today?
Well, the part A, just to warm up this conversation, is a little bit of a segment I'm going to call a shift in perspective.
I
All
like that.
right.
That was good.
So, you're going to get the play on words here in a sec, but
Okay.
basically, we find ourselves driving almost every day. In
A
America,
lot.
we commute everywhere, especially as dads. We're bringing these little minions everywhere, which way and that. Therefore, we see a lot of things out on the road, and it's time to talk about it. All right. Now, the tendency is to unfortunately, get a little bit of road rage, get a little bit of frustration out there. We are just like you are, and that what is that? That little bit of anger fizzles up
It's
sometimes when people do things on
it's
the
like the
road that seem pretty silly.
it's like the check engine light, right? It starts to blink a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. And so we're gonna try a little exercise talking about maybe what's going on with that other car. Say you get cut off, and you're like, "How dare
Ah.
they? How dare they?" So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you some examples, Rob, and then
Okay.
you are going to um, give me a story about what is happening in that car
What's
that
going
might
on
be.
in the car? Gotcha.
Yep. What might be alternatively happening that I'm not maybe assuming or understanding? All
That you're
right.
not privy to. Okay. Hit me.
Okay. So here's first one. Okay.
Mhm.
You're driving on the road,
Got it.
like side streets, not on the
Okay.
freeway. You're going along, and a car is ahead of you, and they are in the
Hmm.
right lane.
Got it.
And as you are going, all of a sudden they slam on their brakes getting up to like a turn in, like into
Got it.
a driveway. Um, and you're like, hey, nice blinker, guy. And then
Hmm.
they don't turn, but they continue going
Ooh.
straight, in which they proceed to never turn right. And so you find yourself wondering, what was the stop for? Why did they do that? I almost ran into them. What gives, guy? What are you doing with your life?
They're apparently choking on a cough drop. That's why they hit the brake. Um, so yeah, I'd literally say choking. I mean, how many times have you choked on something and then you have that knee jerk reaction to like flinch? And
Hmm.
because they're in a car, when they flinch, they end up hitting the gas or they hit the brake. So I'm going to assume, hey, you know what? Their allergies are kicking in and they just did a big hot chew in the car and accidentally brake checked you. Not by
Yeah.
any purpose on their end, especially because they didn't turn in. So I'm going to say that, it was a cough drop moment.
Ooh, that's a good one. And to
Mhm.
make matters worse, I'm gonna say like their coffee spilled while they were at
Ooh,
it. There's a little bit of
that's
initial
that's
shock
another one.
there.
Anything spilling, water spilling, and you'll brake check. So yes,
All right,
something
all right.
spilled or they
So
coughed. One or the other.
so yeah, knee jerk response might be, "How dare you? You're trying to run me off the road," but in reality, maybe
Do
that's
I
what
need to
happened.
do CPR? That's what I'm thinking, right? Like, are
Yeah.
you choking on something? Like, let me help.
So there's an exercise for you in that regard. So if anybody
Hmm.
needs that one, you take it, you run with it.
Yep.
Maybe that's what happened. Okay, here's another one. Here's another one. You're on the freeway now, and you're
Okay, a little
driving.
faster. A little
You're
faster.
driving. You're
Yep.
still on the right side, but you're going.
Okay.
You're going fast, and a car is in the lane to the left of you,
Got it.
and they are kind of veering back and forth a little bit, and
Hmm.
they're kind of coming into your lane. And you see
Gotcha.
it, you step back a bit, but you're like, what are you doing? Are you trying to be in this lane with me? Or are you trying to be in your lane?
Hmm.
And you start thinking like, is this guy drunk? What's going on?
Hmm.
And then they proceed to finally cut in front of you, kind of cut you off, and then
Gotcha.
get off at the exit that you both are exiting off of. Okay.
Got it.
So what happened? What's going on in that vehicle?
Toddlers in the back seat going ham, like really nuts, right? And as a parent, you're like, hey, buddy, like we're exiting now. I know you need to go to the bathroom. I'm trying to exit. Thus the swerving and then thus the final exit. It's just parents being parents with kids in the back. We do the best we can, but sometimes you look back there, and that look, right, wherever the head turns, the body follows, and 10-3 ends up being 12-6. So, forget
Mm.
and forgiven. Gotcha.
Yep. Yep. Didn't even notice you there. Didn't even know you were
Yep.
there. That's what that
Yeah.
was. Okay.
Sorry
Okay.
that you saw that. Yeah.
Yep. I could pick that one up. I think that's very reasonable. You know what?
Yep.
Another thing is, yeah, surprise. I might just be taking all of these from real life, having noted them.
Yeah. I'm
If
not
you
saying that
don't
I heard it from someone, but
if you don't notice how detailed these descriptions are,
Mhm.
yeah. Another one I thought of at the moment when I was actually in this predicament was maybe this guy's right turn signal was out,
Mm.
and it's an older car, and maybe like they're trying to get over. Why is Travis not letting me over? And then
Mhm.
they just go
Mhm.
for it.
Mhm.
In which case, I should let him know, hey, your right signals.
Hey, I've actually seen that, and the one I'm gonna step up on this one.
Yeah.
It not saying it's happened to me, but uh, we've all had those situations where you had to fill up gas. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe something in the heating window looks pretty good, and you're on a long drive, and you pick that up to eat. And now you're driving, not sitting too well with you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you start to adjust. You start to adjust in the seat a little bit. Like, hey, I just got to find a good corner to kind of
Good angle. Yeah.
good angle to drive, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, we have to exit. We have to exit now. And so whenever I see those situations, that's what I always default to. It's oh, they need to find a bathroom ASAP.
Mm,
Yep.
mm. And as this maybe this episode has launched or it hasn't launched, but we have talked about the whole issue of men pooping their pants. So if if you haven't heard
Refer
it
back,
yet, you
refer
need to
back to
listen
that.
to it.
You know what? Because like on YouTube, I know we can do it on our video. Like we'll put a link at the top right here to that episode.
Yep.
There you go.
I don't think it's out yet technically while we're recording this, but it might
No,
be
it,
by
it'll
that time.
probably be out before this one though. It'll be out
That's
before this
right.
one.
So there you have it. If you missed out, you missed out and you need to go back. So
Just click that link. Yeah.
click it. Okay, let's do one more. Um, this one's I'm gonna be honest with you, this is a tough one for me.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand, Rob. Help me understand. We're in driveline. We're dads.
Ooh, ooh.
We're waiting in the drive line. And if you guys don't know what drive line is, I'm just going to explain it to you real quick. It is a line that is maybe 2 miles long, and you are waiting all to pick up your kid at the same time because the schools these days don't allow you to just like park and walk up.
Nope.
You have to pick them up in the car. So
Yep.
you're waiting in line. And my question is this: somebody pulls in the middle of the drive line, like 85
Mm-hmm.
cars ahead of you. You see them
Mm-hmm.
just zoop, slip
Cut
right in
in.
there. What
Yeah.
happened? What's going on, Rob?
They cut in. There is no other perspective here. They cut in. They shouldn't have cut. Period. How could you do that? You know, we've been waiting here for 2 hours. You know, this line sucks the energy out of every parent in front and behind you. And you had the audacity to cut in. No, we had to wait 2 lights before this. You need to wait 2 lights too. Okay. So yeah, that's the perspective. There isn't one. You cut in.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
The only thing I can possibly think of is, well, there are two routes to this. There are two sides
Actually,
to this coin.
yeah, I got one after
One,
you. Let me see if we're thinking the same though.
okay. One, there's an emergency. You got to get the kid because something is extremely pressing. And so you're
That's what I
going to
was
break
thinking.
the rules. You know you're breaking them and you're doing it anyways for the sake of whatever this
Yes.
pressing stressor is on your life.
Yeah. The
Okay?
school called you to come pick up your kid ASAP. So
There's
yeah.
that. There's that.
Yeah.
Okay? The other side is you think you're better than everyone else and you're cutting anyways.
You know what? And everyone remembers your car. Like it's not like this hidden camo vehicle. Like we know Mr. Mercedes SUV. Okay. We got this. We all
Yep.
go to the same school. Yeah.
Because I was gonna say it's one thing if it's one time, but the issue I have is I have one
Repeat
that
offenders.
it's the
Repeat
same
offenders.
one every time. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
just keep waiting for that moment, but actually I'm having a hard time with that. That's a different conversation. We don't have time for that today, but what's that conversation gonna be like when I
I
end
don't
up
know.
beating the
I
card?
always wish them the best. I really do. Like, hey, if this is a personality trait, I truly wish you the best. So
I just want to educate them, but I don't want to be like, how do I have that first? How do I say that first thing? The first thing that comes out of my mouth is either going to sound really sarcastic or really rude, or how do I kindly tell you? Are you aware that you just cut off
so
75 cards?
that so that's another thing is maybe they're not open for critiques, right? So
And
you
and
could
maybe
try
they
to be
aren't. And that's something that they're
yeah.
going to have to work through in their life, and that is what it is.
Yep. Yep. It is
So
what it is.
anywho, we got some other things. Speaking of high stress situations, we got
Yes.
some big topics to talk about, and guys, buckle up because this is going to be a really exciting episode. We have a true professional named Rob here who is going to
Oh,
give
oh,
us
me. Okay.
the down low. That's right,
Oh my
you. I'm
goodness.
talking about you, Rob. Um, is going to give us a down low on breath work. And we're going to see what we can get through today. And we're probably going to keep bouncing off on this later too. But I wanted to start the conversation because you are a professional when it comes to
Yes,
coaching and breath work. And there's
I
certainly
am.
lots of avenues we can pursue in regards to this conversation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Many uses for it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, before we really even get into any specifics, um,
Mhm.
what do you what's your experience in breath work? What do you when did you start this journey learning about it and then
Um,
teaching it,
let's
so on and so forth?
see. Started more than 10 years ago as far as my personal practice. And the main reason was I was looking for a stress management tool, right? I was a solopreneur, doing the 14-hour day grinds, figuring I was young and I could do it, but time caught up with me, stress caught up with me. And so I couldn't out eat, sleep, or exercise it. So I needed another tool. And so that's when I came across meditation. I gave that a try, but as soon as like the facilitator would stop talking, I would think of the 1,001 things I need to do right after the class. So that didn't really work for me. It wasn't until breath work that I got some sense of relief immediately after. And then that became my, the breaking case of emergency things at like restaurants and buildings. That was my
Yeah.
breaking case of emergency. So I've been practicing myself for more than 10 years as far as a certified facilitator and teacher. I started, I believe, in 2017. So that would make about 8 years. Yep, about 8 years teaching in a profession as far as working with corporate clients, personal clients, small groups, athletes, executives, first responders. Again, like what you said, it's a tool, and there's many deviations of the tool for many reasons, right? For all different reasons. So yeah, I've been breathing all my life, but I've been teaching it for the last 8 years.
I love that. You've been breathing all your life. Man,
Yeah,
what consistency.
I
We
know, right?
applaud you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh man. So, all right. So I can imagine there are so many different reasons why people want to get into breath work.
Yeah.
But what do you find in your teaching of it thus far? What are the primary reasons somebody jumps into that space?
So I would say a lot of the reasons that people start asking questions that lead to breath work would be I'm not sleeping well. I notice that I'm constantly on edge, but I don't know why. Like agitated, kind of easily set off, easily frustrated. I notice I'm starting to be short with my kids and my spouse, and I'm not normally like that. I notice my performance in the gym or at work. I notice lulls in the day, like I'm getting really tired, but I don't know why. And so all of those questions could lead to a laundry list of potential answers. But when people come to see me and we start doing assessments around their lifestyle, we start to correlate a lot of their hypervigilance, right? Being stuck in a sympathetic state or just like a fight or flight. Most people have heard fight or flight. And so that's where we can use the tool of breathing to kind of bring you to the opposite side of that coin, which is parasympathetic, which a lot of people know as rest and digest. So think of it as, hey, Rob, I don't know why I'm constantly on edge. It's like my foot is stuck on the gas pedal. And so we teach them how to take that foot off and then play around with throttling between the gas and brake. So a lot of it's lifestyle stuff, a lot of it's performance stuff. And so what we notice is a lot of how you breathe will influence how you feel and how you perform.
All right. Well, the first thing that's it's interesting then. It begs the question, does that breath work change based off those different types of necessities, requirements, like, what somebody's trying to achieve, right? So is the breath work that you lead somebody through in performance different from the breath work that you lead someone
Yeah.
to do in rest?
Yeah. So the short answer is yes. So depending on where they are on that spectrum of like foot stuck on the gas pedal, some people foot stuck on the brake pedal,
Yeah.
right? Like they're not motivated. They can't get enough energy at the gym. Just nothing is firing. So the different breathing patterns will influence a different response in the body, right? So we
Yeah.
talk about arousal, right? If I need someone to wake up, be more energetic, there's breathing patterns for that. If I need to downshift, think about like downshifting on a car, then there's breathing patterns that can help support that as well.
Yeah. So, um, now, a little bit about myself. It's funny because
Mhm,
breathwork it's really come onto the stage here now. I feel like it's a
mhm.
lot more well known than it was 8 years
Oh
ago.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, and I remember, I guess the first time I ever even thought of that was in college. I took a speech class, and
Hmm.
they were my professor was talking about, you get those nerves and it's time to get up and speak. It was public speaking,
Hmm.
and she walked us through box breathing. So this is box breath. This is how it works, and this can help you uh, get onto the stage and not be shaky as you're talking.
Or not
Um,
talk a million miles per minute, right? Because of that adrenaline dump.
Yep. And then there was another one I was using when I worked in healthcare insurance. Like when I was on the phone calls, it was so bad.
Hmm.
You never know when the next person is just going to scream at you. And I was dealing with some major stress, anxiety
Yeah.
on in that space. And I remember feeling like I was going to throw up every morning and just like trying
Yeah.
to do that breath work before I took that first call so that I could move on with the day. Let's focus first
Hmm.
on the side of um, stress management, just because it's
Hmm.
top of mind. So, when it comes to stress management, what are the typical exercises that you're doing with people? And obviously, we can't go through all of the things that you
Yeah.
teach in a
Yeah.
podcast, in this setting, even. But like,
Mhm.
what are some of the things that you find yourself walking people through, and things that people should um, like look into if they're interested in this kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to stress, and we'll go through an example, right? So if we notice a person is feeling very anxious at work, maybe they have a desk job or a certain responsibility over a team, and they notice that they're very anxious, they're yawning a lot, they feel very tired throughout work. And after we assess kind of their lifestyle, first thing to do is to build awareness around what triggers you for stress. Is it the meetings, the small group meetings? Is it the fact that you have to lead the meetings? Is it because you're maybe having to share some bad news with an employee? Or like find out what triggers the response. And then what I mean by response is then it's building awareness of how's it feel. Well, I start to hear myself breathe, like I'm breathing through my mouth, or I notice I start to get sweaty, my palms start to sweat. So these are all triggers of a fight or flight response when adrenaline is being dumped in the body, because your body doesn't know that it's not being chased by a lion, but the symptoms are like you're being chased by a lion. So it's understanding and building awareness around what's triggering it and what are those symptoms that come up. Once we find those two things, then we can add tools like breath work or other things to kind of bypass the triggers or to practice that the triggers aren't that bad situation, um, specifically around those stressors. So a good example is this. Had a client one time where they found out emails, right? It's kind of like the bane of everyone's existence at work. You spend a third of your day at work returning emails, right? Replying to emails. And I noticed with this person, that was a huge trigger. And there's something called email apnea. It's because of this immediate, almost gratification or anticipation of the response or another email coming in that you inadvertently hold your breath, right? So you're typing away,
Wow.
I need to get this back before lunch, send. And then bing, another email comes up. I'm reading, I need to go to lunch, but I'm replying to that, send. And then that first email, I get a reply because they need it back before lunch. And so heighten of stressors, right? This ambient stress becomes bigger than just the background stressors. And what happens is when we hold our breath, right, all of a sudden we take these big gasps for air. And those are, again, signs and symptoms of what we call email apnea or that stressor. So when that happens, I would just have people, hey, you know what? Push away from the desk, the keyboard, and maybe stand up, maybe take a step outside, and just bring your attention to how you're breathing right now. Is it labored? Can you hear it? Is it fast? So what would the opposite of that be? Slow, quiet, and controlled. Whatever that means to you. Can you slow down your breathing to the point where you barely hear it? And can you control it? So if you had to give it a cadence, you could count it, right? So maybe it's a 3 count inhale, 3 count exhale. As soon as you can bring that attention to that, you naturally will start to downshift the stressor from like a level 5 alarm to like a 2. And so now
Yeah.
that you're calm, you can go back to your emails. And anytime that trigger happens, you step outside, do the same thing. Hey, how am I feeling right now? Man, I feel like I'm in a fight. Okay, let's slow down, regain control, and can we make it quiet? And so that's a real easy, practical approach to using how you're breathing to influence how you're feeling, because that's a two-way highway, right? How you're breathing influences your thoughts and emotions, then your thoughts and emotions also influence how you're breathing. And the example I give everyone is like crying, right? Like that's a breathing pattern. So it's going to elicit that
Mm,
emotion. So it goes both ways. If I want to stop,
interesting.
right? If I want, like my kids are like crying and emotional, I'm going to be next to them. I'm going to change the way I breathe so that eventually they mimic how I breathe, which is going to be slower and in control. And now all of a sudden, those emotions start to come back down.
Wow. Wow. So then that's interesting. So you say, okay, how you breathe can affect your emotion, but then
Mhm.
also how you breathe, can it affect different parts of your body for different things? Like we're talking about different, there's the stress side and there's the rest side, but
Mhm.
is it generally the same internal thing that's happening, or is it um, multiple different things depending on the work you're doing?
Yeah. So the two parts to it. So there's like three parts to breathing, right? There's the mechanics, how you breathe, which influences a lot. There's the biochemistry, what's actually changing, the pH level, the carbon dioxide levels in your body. And then thirdly, the pattern that you choose to breathe, right? So those are the three things that it kind of filters down to. So you're asking, does it affect differently? Well, how you breathe does. A lot of times when we breathe in our chest, which most people would think is normal, is actually going to cause an anxious or stressed response. So if I'm breathing like in my shoulders and chest, even through my nose or mouth, if I'm breathing through my mouth into my chest, that's going to lead to an anxiousness state. Whereas if I breathe what we call belly breathing, but it's actually diaphragmic or 360-degree breathing or below the rib cage, if I do that, it's naturally going to lengthen my breath, which does what? Slows my breathing down, right? If we talk about breaths per minute, makes it quieter, more controlled, thus influencing my overall state to calm. So how you breathe, where you breathe, does also affect how you're feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sitting here thinking about my breathing while we're talking.
Yeah. What are we talking
We're talking breath work, and
about?
we're gonna dive let's dive into mechanics a little bit.
Okay.
Like what to do, how to breathe. I'm thinking, I mentioned it earlier, but I am thinking about myself when I had the most stress and anxiety ever was working for this healthcare insurance company. I was basically thinking, hey, I can jump into this thing at the bottom and I'll work my way up real fast and this won't be an issue. But of course, it was during 2020 ish,
Mhm.
2021.
Yeah.
And everything was remote. So I was by myself in a silent house. and dealing with everybody who hates your guts and hates the system. And that's not good for me. That's not good for me at all. I'm not wired for that. I learned that, but I am talking too much about the experience. Basically, it was the worst experience of my life.
Mhm.
I had never felt anxiety before and stress in that level. I was eating horribly and losing so much weight because I was stressed.
Talk about
And
a
so
symptom. Yep.
I would go to work often days, and I remember learning a thing or two on some breath work to help, but I would sit down and feel like I was going to throw up so
Mhm.
often. I would, and it was just like, I don't want to be here. I want to crawl into a hole. This is not going to be good. And so I would do this breath of like, I had seen, like, I think on a reel or something, it was like, you do this thing of like, you breathe in through your nose and then you let out a, and so I would do like a few of those. Sorry to the mic people if the sound was bad there. So, my bad. But we have to talk about it. So, and that would seem to like lower my heart rate a little bit. Now, of
Mhm.
course, then I realized like my operating heart rate with that job was like probably like 90 to 100 BPM, like
Easy.
just
Easy.
standard. I was like always there. So, anyways, what could I have also have done? Is that a good practice? Let's talk about some of the options for breath work that you could do depending on how you're feeling.
Gotcha. So, one of the things to kind of tee it up is how you breathe does influence how you feel. And so, if you're already in a stressful situation and you have poor mechanics, it'll like 10x the feeling, right? It'll be like, wow, this is way bigger than I can handle. Unknowingly, you could be creating that scenario, right? I mean, outside of the poor job, it's how you breathe. And what I mean by that is, most people use, and I'm going to try not to use too much terminology, but most people like chest breathe, right? They'll breathe into their shoulders or traps. So when you see them breathe, they kind of look like football pads. They'll be going up and down. So that's not an efficient way to breathe. And it actually induces you to what we call overbreathe, or you might have heard of it as hyperventilation, right? Where you're breathing too fast. And a lot of people know that when you're breathing too fast, you're not actually breathing more oxygen in. A lot of times it's the opposite. You're not going to get enough oxygen into your muscles or your brain. And that's where that emotional response sets in, right? So think of it this way. It's a closed loop where it's like I'm breathing poorly, so I'm breathing a lot, right? Fast. And so then my brain's like, wait a minute, I'm not getting enough oxygen. So what's it say? Breathe faster. And so you start breathing faster, and then that causes less oxygen. And then again, goes back to the brain. And so that's that hyperventilation anxiety loop. And so first and foremost is knowing that, okay, do an assessment on yourself when you're breathing. And I know it sounds funny, but look in the mirror or record yourself on video and just not of you just breathing, but do something, right? Check email, watch a movie, maybe videotape yourself having a conversation with your friends. Is your mouth open the whole time? If so, usually it's because you're a mouth breather versus nasal breathing. You want to be predominantly breathing in through the nose. You can breathe out through the nose or mouth, but in through the nose. And then do you see that your chest and shoulders move primarily? If so, we need to start breathing lower. And I always tell people kind of breathe into your belt line, like where your belts would hold up some trousers. You want to start low, inhaling low, and then filling your torso like it was a big barrel, right? So I want to inhale low all the way up. Sometimes you might have heard it as diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing, but just think about breathing into your belt line.
My belly is already a big barrel, so that's my problem here.
There
And
you go. There's not much
that
room to breathe into.
also affects your breathing though, right?
Very
Like
true.
if you're like me and all of your dessert goes right to your belly. Um,
Yes. But we want to
whew,
be breathing down. And the reason
yep.
being is there's a muscle, a bladder muscle called the diaphragm, and that helps you breathe when you use it. And when you chest breathe, you don't use it as much as when you quote unquote belly breathe. So learning proper mechanics does wonders. And why it's important to do that, and I'm going to circle back, is to avoid breathing too much. So if I'm breathing lower, I'm taking longer to breathe every breath, aka I'm slowing down. So if I can slow down my breath, it slows down how I'm feeling. I don't feel as anxious, as irritable. I won't be on high alert because of the breathing. So that's the first thing as far as mechanics, is just learning how to breathe slower. But when you say, hey, breathe slower, you're like, okay, right? It's, well, let's just breathe low. Breathe as low as you can. Try to, like, I would, like, if you're looking for a tactile feedback, is if you took like a belt and you tied it around your belly button, right? 360 degrees, and then try to breathe into that belt. Can you feel pressure all the way around? That's where I would start. So doing that for like 2 minutes every day, right?
Mm.
Allows you to practice good mechanics as in any other skill set. If you want to get better at fly fishing, casting that rod, you won't wait to just go fishing to do that, right? You do some dry runs. You would practice how to do it before you need it. And that's the thing about breathing and mechanics, is if you have the space to practice it, when you need it, you're already breathing better, right? You don't want to wait for emergencies and all of a sudden do box breathing because that's supposed to calm you down. It may or may not, depending on your mechanics, right? So that's kind of the tips to take home for mechanics as far as breathing, is making sure you're breathing low. And then by breathing low, you'll breathe slow. And I think, like in Travis's scenario, a lot of our stressful heightened awareness scenarios, especially if you're a parent going to a new area with little ones, like you're always, heads on a swivel, that's when your breathing can either be helping you or actually hurting you.
We're all breathing slower, and we're all paying attention to how much our stomach is getting, how big
Mhm.
it's getting right now. So
Perfect.
thank you for setting us into the right zone right now. It does not feel, I'm noticing even, I'm obviously thinking about, as you're talking about, as are we all.
Mhm.
It doesn't always feel, definitely doesn't feel natural, like to breathe right into there.
It does. And
I'm,
also, I think, because culturally, and one of the things that I always joke about in like my workshops or working one-on-one is, like, we live in a culture with like 6-pack abs, right? 12-pack abs. I need to keep it flexed. I need to keep it tight. Well, doing that actually interrupts your breathing, right? It doesn't allow you to breathe low.
hey,
So in the workshops, I would tell people, hey, let it go. I want to see that belly. I want to see you not flex. Now, flexing for supporting back is one thing, but flexing because you are worried about how you look is a different thing. So when you're alone, right, in the privacy of your own home, hey, let it all hang out and breathe. And you'll notice quite quickly how better you feel, how much better you feel.
so what you're saying is that we don't need abs. Thanks, Rob. I'm
Actually,
on it.
technically, we all
I
have
have a
abs.
one big old ab
Mine's
right
just a
here.
uni ab. Yeah, or underneath a pillow. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. My abs are just hiding.
Mhm.
I need to change that. That's another episode. Boom, boom, boom. So many episodes coming out. I'm so excited.
Nice.
Um, okay, okay. So that makes me think of when I got the chance to be in one of your breathwork classes
Mhm.
way back in the day. Um, I thought it was so funny because you and I are in two separate parts of the state. But
Yep.
it was cool because it was like, oh, Rob's doing a virtual class. I can do the class finally. Yes. So was part of the class, and I remember doing the exercises, and I could tell, and this is nothing against Rob at all, okay, just precursor to this is me. I noticed, like, dang, everybody else is breathing real they can let it out and leave it, like, leave their breath out for way longer than me. And Rob was like, as he always does, coaching, like, very graciously, and like, hey Travis, try this, let's try this again. And it wasn't it wasn't working exactly, so I'm wondering, I guess, what's the question? What are the different things that can affect somebody's ability to do some of this breath work? I'm assuming that fitness is obviously a part of that equation. You want to be healthy, you want to be exercising on the
Mhm.
regular. If you have little kids, you use the excuse all the time, like I do, like, sorry, I got so many kids, when am I going to exercise? But that's a bad excuse, everybody. Don't do that. What's coming to mind?
Okay, so besides working on mechanics, like, I think everyone can be breathing better. And I always tell kind of like those quotes that, like, you always remember, is just because it's automatic doesn't mean it's efficient. Right. So even though you've
Hmm.
been breathing your whole life, your stressors are different in this season of life, right? The amount of stress that has accumulated over your life is different. And we hold stress in different areas, right? Some people have it in their traps in their neck, right? Oh, my neck's always sore. It could be an area that you hold stress. Some people hold it in their stomach, as in like always flexed 6-pack abs, which also ends up creating like adhesion or stickiness, as in like, man, my abs are so tight that I don't know how to relax, right? So there's a lot of things like that, stressors that might call it. There might be physical things. So with that adhesion example, like your skin and muscles might be so tight, it feels like a tight muscle, like you pull the muscle, but it's actually just, it hasn't been moved in years. And so breathing into your belly might be physically hard because there's no stretch there, which is something that you need to address. So there's the physical part as far as creating space to breathe, I guess, right? Or, working manually, as in massaging the stomach and trying to create some movement there. And then learning the mechanics, how to breathe properly is another idea, making sure you're breathing low. But to what you said, a lot of times whenever I have group classes, there's individuals that find it hard to relax and to breathe. And what I mean by that is when we're naturally in a group environment, we have this sensor of, am I doing it right? And if that sensor goes off with questions, you start looking to your left and your right to see if they're doing it right. Because if they're doing it right, I must be doing it wrong. And so that storyline builds up to the point where you are no longer focused on, am I breathing? Right?
It's
You're
like white
focusing on,
coat syndrome, right?
yeah,
Like at the
exactly. It
doctor.
really is. And
Mhm.
so a lot of times recently in workshops and stuff like that, I always tell people like a good way to kind of enter into the space is to also listen to music. Because if you're doing your breath work and listening to music, you can't hear anybody else breathe, right? You can't hear the person next to you. You're not worried about people outside looking in. So by having that kind of distraction, you can finally focus on your breath. And so that's a tool that I get a lot of people that are like, Rob, I can't slow down my breathing, and we find out that you're actually more worried about how you're breathing than the actual breathing. So to kind of disassociate or separate that is another aspect of it. Now, as far
Mm.
as getting better at breath, right? It's a practice like anything else. Like I mentioned before, it's a skill acquisition, right? Like we need to be practicing enough. Now, Rob, I don't have an hour, every day to be doing breathwork meditation. Surprise, I don't either. And so I always give people these pocket practices, right? And pocket practices are what we call like breathing in transitions. So do you have 2 minutes? Great. You can do breath work in 2 minutes. Like, is that really going to make an effect? Well, if you pocket 2 minutes throughout the day, that could be 20 minutes of breath work, right? 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there. And let's give an example. So there's things that you do in your day that are pretty automatic. For me, with 3 kids under the age of 13, we do laundry and dishes every day, like literally every day. Is that high functioning kind of frontal lobe? No, it's not. Like I could fold laundry and have a full conversation with Travis. So that's when I practice breath work. That's when I might do a slow inhale and a slow exhale for a certain amount of time, or practice box breathing, all these like named routines. When I'm doing dishes, same thing. When I'm riding on an elevator up or down, I don't need to really be thinking about anything. Don't do this while you're driving though, right? You should be hands at 10 and 2 and focusing. But there are times in your day, like let's say you're going for a walk, right? Or you're in the pickup line for your kids parked and you're waiting, or you're waiting outside. These are all these little pockets that unknowingly are a great opportunity to focus and become aware around your breath. And if you add up all those little, transition times during the day, you've got your hour practice easy. So first thing in the morning, you wake up, maybe you're brewing coffee, 3.5, 4 minutes. There's 4 minutes of breath work. Loading the kids into the car, backing up in that pickup line or in the drop off line, another 20 minutes of breath work, right? So that's what I always tell people is instead of finding time in a packed schedule, if you audit your time, you will find these little transitions that you can add your breath work. So that's where I recommend people to actually practice. Then obviously, if you do have a 20-minute block on a Saturday to do a guided app breathwork YouTube thing, hats off to you. Awesome. But if you don't, it's not an excuse not to practice during these pockets in your day.
And I'm assuming that there are quite a few people that are like myself. And what you can do is you can open up your phone and go to the screen time section. And what it's going to tell you,
Is where you
along with
can
how
find
much
the
time,
time.
well, number one, where you can find the time. And number two, guys, I am preaching to myself right now. You can look at how many phone pickups you've had. And if you divide that by, say, 10 or 20, you're gonna probably get a handful of those times where you could say, instead of picking up my phone for the next 2 minutes, I'm just gonna try that breathing thing.
There you go.
Or maybe set that as your goal. Divide by 20, and that's your goal for how many pocket breathing practices you can get in.
Mhm.
Because I don't know. The last time I checked, I think I had like 88 pickups or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to give you the wrong data. It's probably worse. But
Or just
yeah,
transitions in your day. Like if you are like
yeah,
us and you work from home or you stay at home dads, then like, hey, I'm gonna go fill up my glass of water. Great, you're gonna do breath work at that point. Or I'm about to make lunch. Well, as I'm making my sandwich, I'm gonna do breath work then. If you work at an office, right? Every time you do a transition, like let's say lunch, right? Showing up, exiting, those are all transition times. Spend 5 minutes in the car doing breath work. So those are all the times, especially if you have traffic afterwards. Those are all the great times to be adding a practice of breath during your day.
yep. Oh man, that's great stuff. That is great stuff. And I mean, you kind of covered it. I was gonna say, give us some cliff notes. We talked
Mhm.
about pocket activities. I
Oh, I
mean,
guess there's one thing before we close. There's one thing I
yeah.
wanted to kind of address is that because it's easy to Google or like YouTube like breath work, and I get this email more often than not, and it goes something like this: like, "Hey Rob, I saw you on Instagram," or a buddy of mine, Travis, follows you, and I have been having problems sleeping. Right, I can't fall asleep. My head just won't turn off. I got 2 kids, newborn. And Travis said to do, not, I won't use Travis, Dave. Dave said to do some box breathing. Didn't know what that was. Looked on YouTube, and there was this guided box breath. So it was like inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, and hold for 5. And that's supposed to help me sleep. But every time I do it, I have like insomnia. Like I can't sleep. It actually makes it worse. I thought box breathing is supposed to help. And so that's what I wanted to talk about is not everyone needs the same pattern or tool.
Ah,
So without assessment, certain breathing patterns might elicit an arousal or a stimulus. Like it might be a stimulant, right? Imagine taking a cup of coffee right before you go to bed. Like that's literally the impact of doing the wrong pattern for you. So I always tell people like, hey, before, if you're looking to relax or maybe you are looking for some type of arousal or wake up, to do an assessment on your breathing, both your mechanics, and this is something like what we can link to later, but a real easy test is an exhalation test. And to sum it up, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but let's say, for example, this person's name is David, and David, after exhaling, can hold his breath before like that urge to breathe for 10 seconds. Okay. Now imagine his friend just told him to do box breathing for 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, which is 20 seconds. So he's in a state of panic every breath that he's taking. And panic is going to cause arousal. It's going to cause your body to dump adrenaline. Thus, the reason why you
mm-hmm.
can't sleep. So, being assessed on how your breath is, your CO2 tolerance, that's the fancy term for the exhale test, apnea test, that'll give you a guide to what patterns for you are relaxing and what patterns aren't. So, for instance, someone who is trained, someone who's a little bit more relaxed, maybe that 5 count box breath is relaxing, but it's because they can hold their breath for a minute. So 20 seconds is relaxing, right? That's not going to be hard. But someone who has a 10-second test, 20 seconds is going to be an arousal or it's going to wake them up. So before you go into like any kind of breath pattern, but Rob, what if I don't have someone to assess? I don't know what to test. I don't want to Google it. Then the easiest way to slow down your mind is to slow down your breathing. Don't look for a pattern, just whatever slowing down means for you, right? So inhale slower, not the slowest. Exhale slower, not the slowest. Because at the same time, if you inhale, exhale too slow, it'll put you in that panic mode again, right? So
Yeah.
just slow your breathing down. That's basically it.
So, is there a spot that somebody could go to figure out what that CO2 result is?
If you go and you just Google CO2 tolerance test, right, or
Yeah.
apnea test, they're all the same, right? They're all
Okay.
going to give you a number that you can take. Um, and then you know what? Like maybe on the ice bath episode, we'll go through that assessment. We'll actually do it on air, and then people will have it then, which is
Yeah.
it's a little teaser for you to listen to that next episode.
Get
Uh,
excited.
there you go.
Yeah. Well, hey, before I know you said you gave us some important stuff, and I want to leave us with some completely unimportant stuff
That's nice.
because I want to end with some fun also.
Okay.
And I feel like we're on such fire right now for like the conversation, and we
Yeah.
are not in a rush. We
No,
both are clear of pickups right now.
we're good.
I want to do the same word game again. I want to I
Okay.
want to I want to beat our record, which I believe is 5 or
Something like
4.
that. 4 or 5.
I don't remember, but
Okay.
I mean, this is kind of cheating because it's the end of the episode. The whole idea is you get zoned in at the beginning, but this should prove that we're more dialed in.
Should. Or I'll just edit it so we get it on the 4th one. One or the other.
Okay.
Okay.
So, do you have a word in mind?
Do I have a word in mind? Sure. Yes, I do.
All right. So I'm going to count to 3, and of course it's going to be a little bit off because the Wi-Fi isn't the best out here for me. So, audio guys, guess what? We're saying it at the same time, but you hear it at different times. So
Mhm.
deal with that too. All right. So 3, 2, 1.
Computer. Okay. Breathe. Computer. Okay. Breathe. Computer.
I got one.
Breathe, computer.
Okay.
Do you have something?
I do. We'll see where you go. Okay. All right.
Oh my
all
goodness.
right, all
Hold
right.
on.
Breathe computer.
Um,
Okay. I'm ready. I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, I'm good.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Wim
Scuba.
Hof. Scuba. I like that. I like scuba.
I don't know. I was thinking about the air tank and all that.
Okay. We'll go with scuba. I like scuba.
Okay, and you said Wim Hof.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think we're coming together now. Okay. All right. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Ice
Diving.
bath.
What'd you say?
Ice bath.
Ice
Wim
bath.
Hof.
I like that. I know,
Scuba.
I went
We're
with
in
the
the
scuba
water.
thing. Oh,
Boom.
that is true.
See, water and Wim Hof equals ice bath.
That is true. Water.
So, okay. So I said ice bath. You said diving.
Diving. Yeah.
Diving.
Diving.
Okay. All right. Next, do you have one?
I'm so scared right now.
I am too. Okay. We can be scared together.
Okay.
3.
Diving.
Okay,
Okay,
you ready?
yeah. Mhm.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Breath hold.
Glacier.
Glacier. The ice is getting bigger.
Glacier. Breath
Okay.
hold. Okay. I got one. Wait. I'm trying to think of a different word actually. Okay, I got one. You said breath hold and I said glacier. Think
Oh my
about
goodness.
think about breath and think about like glacier and put the two together. What's happening? And that's the word that I have. Okay.
Okay. Give it a try.
3, 2, 1.
Cold exposure.
Hypothermia.
Okay, it's closer. Cold exposure, hyperthermia.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out how we bridge this gap. I like this. Okay. Okay.
Cold exposure. Okay.
Okay. I got one.
Okay. I got it.
3, 2, 1. Blanket.
Okay, we're warming up.
Okay. Blanket
Hot
and
coffee,
hot coffee. Just
blanket.
you erase everything else. Okay.
Okay.
We're on the hot coffee and the blanket.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Campfire.
Cozy. Guys, this doesn't work. It's better to start at the beginning of the episode,
Should
not
have
the
started
end.
in the beginning.
Not at the
Oh my goodness.
cozy campfire.
Okay. Cozy campfire. Got it.
Cozy
Ready?
campfire. Okay. 3, 2, 1. S'mores.
Done.
And guess
Done.
what? I think we used this on one of the other ones. I think we ended on s'mores at a different episode.
Maybe we just want s'mores. I don't know.
We need to have s'mores. That's apparently the topic of the day. All right, guys. You know the drill. We are not gurus.
We're not even experts, to be honest. We are just
2 dads in real life.
Real life.